Hi guys, and I'm really excited to be here today because not only have I got an incredible guest, but this is my first podcast, my first guest, and I'm going to introduce you to somebody that I've known for a very long time. I think since she was a wee little girl, as they say. So today I'm going to be talking to Jazz Straszynski. I'm just going to read her bio here, which is what I like to do. Now she's a Pilates teacher and she's also a personal trainer. So she's going to be spending about the next hour or so with us talking about her fitness journey and the well-being roller coasters she's been on. And I can tell you it's been a roller coaster. So Jazz grew up in a family that were very calorie obsessed, and had this, as you know, can have a very negative effect on your body and your image. So along with the school bullying and a lack of friends, Jazz has really built herself up and found her feet in the fitness business and is helping and encourage others to gain strength and to learn and to love their bodies. Hi, Jazz. Welcome to Zen Footsteps.
Hi, well, thank you so much for having us.
That's okay.
Hey, us, it's me and my little dog down here.
I can see him. He's a cute little thing. So let's start off with, how did you get into the fitness industry? What was that journey? How did that sort of start?
Gosh, well, do you know what? I'm going to have to start from the very beginning.
That's okay. Good place to start, as Mary Poppins said. Yeah.
And it goes right back, probably to when I was kind of in schools, really.
Yeah.
And as you said in the bio there, school was quite a difficult time for me, and I was unfortunately bullied. And I think it was contributing factors towards the bullying, and
Yeah.
a challenging lifestyle at home that I basically comfort ate. I ate a lot of food, and I didn't do any exercise. And I think, and then being home educated as well, I didn't really have much fitness on the timetable. And I think I just kept gaining weight basically. Um, and then it was at one point I was dragged to the doctors, and the doctor turned around to me and said, look, if you keep, living this lifestyle, you are going to be put on insulin. Diabetes is going to develop.
Right.
Um, so you need to do something about it. And that's when I got a day pass to go to the gym. Went to the gym and didn't have a clue what I was doing. I just kind of played around with all the machines, but I felt good. I managed to get those relief of endorphins, and I just fell in love with it. And then there and then, they probably don't do it nowadays, but I signed up for the whole year, and I've never looked back. And that's when my fitness journey started. I didn't really know
Yeah.
what I was doing.
And what
And
what sort of age in terms of in terms of the bullying, which is kind of horrendous. I see this a lot of young people, I think, that I come across go through this. So what age did that really start for you?
Um, do you know what? It started primary school. It
Yeah.
started about year three,
Okay.
which is quite young.
So for the those listening, obviously in other countries that have different school system, what sort of age is year three? This is the UK we're talking about. So what age would that be?
Gosh, now you're racking my
It's,
brain.
so I think year one is five. It's about seven, is it?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, it started year
Wow,
three,
that's very young.
and I think I've always been quite different. I've always been quite confident. I've always been
Yeah.
quite bubbly.
Yeah.
I'm not one to follow the crowds. So it has, those strengths.
Yeah.
However, the bullies like to pick on people like myself.
Because you're
Um,
different, right?
yeah,
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 I often found I experienced something quite similar when I was young. It was sort of I was kind of what I call aware at a very young age, and I think that people sense the difference. And sometimes what they do is if they see that confidence and they're not confident, so they project and that. And obviously, I've known you for a very long time. I think you're what age are you now?
so I'm 28.
Yeah, 28. So I my eldest is 26. So you guys kind of well, you were at school together, weren't you? My eldest, isn't it? Wow. So you really went through a lot. So in terms of that fitness journey, what then led you to then study fitness? Because obviously you've gone through that, and that was your catalyst or your motivation. But what then sort of made you think, right, I want to go into this. I want to go and study fitness.
Yeah, well, I think I kind of did about a year or so in the gym where I didn't really know what I was doing. I was meeting new people, I was out of my comfort zone, I was learning about the gym equipment. And then it's then when I thought, actually, why don't I do a bit of studying? So I did my level 2 gym, and it was just for myself, just to build up my own confidence, just to learn about my body and learn about the gym. Um, and I mean, that really pushed me out of my comfort zone, because level 2 gym, I mean, nowadays you can do it within like a 6-week course, you can do it online. Then I very much had to go into the gym. I had to be really confident. I had to learn about the body, present myself, which I hated kind of doing, really, being put on the
Right.
spot and everything. Um, just fell in love with it. And then I thought, actually, I quite like studying. I quite liked learning, growing. I like the fitness side of things. Why can't I keep studying? And then potentially go on to teach and help others.
So, and within that as well, did you get any injuries or anything? I remember you telling me something, you had a knee injury or something? What happened there? Did that sort of really put a kibosh on things, as they say, or what did you, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, well, so I did my level 2 gym, and then went on to aerobics.
Yeah,
Um, Aerobics is great. However, you do have that repetitiveness, and especially if you're bringing some jumping into it as well,
yeah.
that can impact the knees. But it was after that, so I then trained to become a Pilates teacher.
Okay.
And I basically, all of these studies kind of added up, which was great. However, it meant I was overtraining, and unfortunately, I was then under eating. So it did actually lead to an eating disorder.
Wow. Well, so you not only have you had the bullying, which then led to putting on weight, you've now got, and do you think that in the industry there is a lot of that? Because I see, I often, as a man, I walk down the street and I'm not exposed to many sort of things like this. But if you look around the billboards, the posters, it's about, even guys as we get older, we're told, if you get gray or you lose hair, you're follically challenged like me, right? You're kind of considered to be like a,
Yeah.
a silver fox or something like that. But as a woman, it's so difficult, and especially as a young woman, because the expectation is for you to adhere to certain stereotypes, to look a certain way. So, did any of that play into it for you?
Definitely, definitely. I think I was still quite new into the fitness industry. I was still finding my feet. And I think at the time, as you said in my bio, I had a very negative kind of living situation as well.
Yeah.
In the sense, my family, we used to jump on the scales every day, weigh
Wow.
themselves, and it just being surrounded by people like that who would and I grew up around with people telling me all those phrases where what's it like, a second on the lips, a month on the hips, or if
Wow.
you pinch more than an inch, you're fat.
Wow.
Um,
Because you hear this too. I mean, I when I'm working with people, I see a lot of people saying things to me like, I see this especially applying with girls actually, which is you can't leave the table till you've finished everything on your plate. One more mouthful. If you're a good girl, you can have a sweet or whatever. And we're endorsing these almost like a hypnotic mnemonic where we're repeating it, repeating it. And of course, the first thing that's going to happen with any stress that you come across, you're going to encounter, you're going to go to your default setting, which is, well, when mum told me to have that or dad told me to have that one more, whatever, you're a good girl and I'll give you a sweet. It's a reward dopamine kind of
yes.
cycle that we get into, which is incredibly negative. So how did yours manifest then in terms of eating? Were you just not eating, or did you binge? What did you do?
Um, so yeah, I think I was overtraining. I was training, 6 times a week, and
Wow.
I just wasn't fueling my body at all. I mean, some days I would literally have a couple of chocolate biscuits and that was it. I just had in my head that I was fat.
Yeah.
Um, and I think these sayings, I would constantly be pinching myself and weighing myself. I couldn't look myself in the mirror. I didn't love myself at all, unfortunately. But it got to the point where I was actually teaching Pilates, and I used to have about 4 or 5 mats underneath me because my spine used to bruise from doing Pilates.
Wow.
Um,
And
and
and and did you find them? did you learn coping mechanisms to disguise that and things like that?
Oh yes, definitely, definitely. I tried to disguise it as much as I could. I kind of wore a lot of like baggier clothing,
Yeah,
or kind of wear a few kind of tops to kind of pad me out. But despite that, I still had people come up to me saying you need to go to the doctors or you're not looking well.
right.
Um, but it's difficult because when you're in that frame of mind, you don't see that. You know, you might be a size 4 or a size 6, you might be weighing 6 stone,
Yeah,
but you still think you're fat. It's like a psychological game that you have with yourself. And I think when you've been through things, whether it be the bullying, you know, you're not learning it's a difficult one because when you go through the bullying, you're kind of put down over and over and over again. You know, it's difficult to learn to love yourself if
sure.
people are constantly challenging that. So I think it was multiple factors of the bullying, a difficult kind of place at home as well. So the gym was my safe space.
Well, okay.
I took a lot of my anger out, I think.
I can imagine. So that became you became your sanctuary.
Yeah, it did. It
Wow.
did. So yeah, the eating disorder, that was probably a couple of years. And it was through the
Yeah.
doctors that I managed to get help and support. And the one thing they recommended to me was to join. It sounds like it shouldn't work,
Yeah.
but they said to me I should join a park run.
Okay. And again, for those that don't know, this is in the UK. It's very popular. I think it's 5K, isn't it? Something like that.
Yeah.
Every Saturday morning, people around the UK meet up, and it's for free. And they basically run 5K, all different, ages and stuff. And basically, it's to make you feel fit and a camaraderie. I mean, it's a fantastic thing. I did a park run, but the problem was it wasn't a flat park run. It was a hill park run. So I remember running up this hill, and there was an older lady. I think she must probably in her 70s or something like that. And I gently put my hand back. Come on, we can do this. And I'm pushing her up the hill. I got to the top of the hill, and she she comes up past me, puts her hand on my back, and goes, "Come on, you can do this." Because I'm panting and struggling. My big boy ego got the better of me, and it's that kind of camaraderie. The other thing too, which is really interesting, I wanted to kind of mention in here as well. I don't know if you had this, but one of the signs I look at when people do lose a lot of weight, is often you'll get kind of like peach fluff, I used to call it, on the forearm and stuff like that. It's an indication that the body is trying to keep warm. So you actually get more hair in your forearm. And of course, those things we try to disguise them, and we try not to let people see. So what happened then? What was the thing about parkrun that changed it for you?
Well, I mean, as you've just mentioned about the park run and that story,
Mm,
it was the community. I think because I was gymming alone by myself, I think that was also a bit of a struggle as well. I would let off some steam. I was
yeah,
training hard by myself, but I think it was more so the community, the support, and people kind of saying to me in a nice way, like, you're doing really well with your park run. However, if you want to get new PBs, you need to fuel yourself. So having a really positive spin on
what's a PB? Sorry, what's that?
personal best.
Okay, great. Okay, so
Um,
don't worry, I do the same. I get so used to talking certain medical jargonese that I forget. Okay, so PB, personal best, right? Okay, sorry, yeah,
and it got to the point where I was having like running coaches run alongside me, really encouraging me. And it was through them that they were saying, look, Jazz, you've got good stamina there. You've got a really good positive, outlook. You're incredibly determined. You can get some really good personal bests with your 5K,
yeah,
but you need to be fueling yourself properly. And it was through meeting these people that I was like, okay, I need to start eating better. And that's how I managed to get out of my eating disorder,
right.
through the community. And that's the thing. I'm a very big believer. Like you meet people in your life for a reason, whether they're there for a day or they say something that
I
sticks with
agree.
you or a season. And I did these park runs for 3 years, met some amazing people that got me through my eating disorder. And then unfortunately my knee gave way during the park run.
Yeah,
I decided to keep running. I was probably about 200 meters from the finish line and I ran on it. I collapsed at the finishing line, and I had 6 strapping lads carry me to the
What a
hospital.
shame. What a shame. What a shame. Did you go back the next week?
um, so yeah, so they took me to the hospital, and that's where they kind of saw to me, and they actually said you have been diagnosed with Osgood-Schlatter disease.
Okay, so I'm just going to, do you mind if I
Go for
explain
it.
that? So Oshkosh is essentially when you were growing at around about kind of 13, 14, you get your growth plates. Think of this like dinner plates, but the bone plates, and they grow one on top of each other. And around that age, you get this growing spurt. The problem with Oshkosh is if you run on it or exercise a lot, that bone plate growth can get affected, distorted, and you can get like underneath the kneecap, the patella, you can get this sort of bony prominence, and later on in life it can cause problems. Very tough, as you know, because what you have to do is for a good year of that time is do nothing, which is, I presume that must have been very tough for you.
Definitely, yeah. So having gone from 3 years of loving park runs, and then to it was basically a year of kind of Pilates really. So I was teaching Pilates, although when I say teaching, I was sat on the mat instructing it verbally.
Right.
Didn't really do much. I was on crutches as well. Um,
Wow.
my mental health deteriorated after that.
I can imagine. So during that period, did you, in terms of the eating, did you find it kind of went backwards? Did you go, right, I'm like this anyway, so I'm going to eat a whole bunch of chocolates and everything? Or
I did comfort eat.
yeah,
I did, and I think yeah, so my weight has completely fluctuated. It's been like a yo-yo probably the last 10 years. It's only the last year that I am now probably the fittest and strongest I
yeah,
am. And I don't weigh myself at all.
okay,
I just go with how I'm feeling. But
good.
back then, it was very much all over the place. But the mental health wasn't great. I was comfort eating. I wasn't able to move as much. I was then actually put on antidepressants
Okay.
just because the mental health. Yeah, it was difficult.
It's kind of a common story I hear with a lot of women. Guys go through it too. I'm not suggesting they don't, but women, and it's really hard because nobody really addresses the underlying issue. I mean, did you ever, for example, I know that for me personally, I had this, but have any bullies you ever seen subsequently, now that they're adults, ever said apologize to you or come up to you, or is anything there?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Interesting. Interesting. Because I had one particular guy, unfortunately, he passed away. Knowing what I know now, I know that his home life was particularly bad, and he ended up turning to actually to alcohol as a get out, and subsequently from that, he unfortunately he passed away. And it is something that I see with a lot of people who have been bullied, but the thing I see with a lot of people being bullied too, they are different, but later on in life they're different. They're also quite vivacious, and they tend to be real go-getters. And I've had the privilege of seeing that journey within you. I mean, I didn't know about the bullying, obviously, but I've seen that journey within you and what you've gone through. Right from, I remember you, and I was helping at Sunday school or something like that, and you were singing and stuff like that. So I feel like an old fogey now when I think back to those times. So did you find, without going too personally on it, but did you find within your family unit as well that you didn't fit in? Did you feel like an outsider?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, so I've only recently stopped therapy. I've had therapy for 10 years. I've
Right.
had different counselors, different styles of therapy to find what works best for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's never one factor, it's always multiple factors I
I agree.
find that definitely add up. And I think it was from primary school, the bullying started. I then went to a secondary school, and there was more bullying there. It got even worse. Unfortunately, we had to get the police involved.
Wow.
I then got pulled out of that school, and I was actually moving up into a private school, thinking that hopefully, because it's private,
I know.
maybe there might be some more care.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the bullying was there again. And believe it or not, I won't say what the school was, but
Yeah.
the school didn't believe me. with the bullying. Unfortunately, it was emotional, it was physical as well. So I had the
Right.
bruise. The school didn't believe me and asked me to leave.
Wow.
Um,
I mean, that's just I again, this is it's incredible that these stories I hear again and again and again. But it's what's really incredible, really, to be honest, is how you've turned this around and you've taken that negative and created this incredible positive, and how you're inspiring other people too. Um, I'm going to ask this one here. I mean, we talked about this before, but I find it interesting because I know that you help people from, in terms of what you do in your Pilates and as a PT and things like that. But one of the things that I really admire was your story you told me about your camper van. Not many people I know would, a single woman, right, your age, get in a camper van on her own. I mean, that's courage, right? So tell me what inspired you to do that?
well, do you know what? I've never really had, do you know what? I don't really have many friends.
Okay.
The family support has always been quite challenging.
Yeah.
And it's just something I was always told I was going to be.
Can I just say you're going to have loads of friends after this?
Oh, I hope so.
They're going to be sliding in your DMs like left, right, and center. They're going to be
Well,
contacting you. They're going to be all over you. Believe me, you'll be getting phone calls from
well,
people
I'm
saying,
single, guys, so
"There we go, there we go. Forget about swipe left and right. You're going to be fine. Don't
I was
worry."
going to say the dog and the camper van are part of the package deal as well.
So this is like you got a camper van. You did it up. What did you do? Tell me that story. I'm fascinated by it.
Well, do you know what? I was always told that I'm going to be the daughter that grows up. I'm going to be the first to settle down. I'm
Yeah.
going to be the last to move out, and that used to really bug me. Uh,
It's a lot of, it's funny enough, there's a lot of pressure. My wife is one of five and she's the eldest, and one of the problems about being the eldest is you're expected to look after the others. You're expected to be the one that is the trendsetter, whatever you want to call it. It's really hard, and then all the others come along and it's almost like you almost become a parent, and
yeah,
you didn't sign up for that, right? You didn't sign up to be a parent. So you bought this camper van.
yeah. So I told my family first. I said I'm going to buy a camper van, and they were like, "No, you're not." Um,
Yes, I am.
and the thing is with me, I'm the sort of person. If you tell me I can't do something, I will be watch me. I will prove you wrong.
I'm exactly the same. There's no such word as can't. I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
So I bought this camper van off Auto Trader. It's basically a car that like converts and folds out into a camper van,
Oh
and it's
wow.
only designed really for like weekend.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, this is a great first start.
Yeah.
I fell in love with it straight away. I did a weekend down in Hastings as my very first trip just to see whether I had the right things and everything. Rupert comes with me, and it's
Right.
basically it's just incredible. And then after that, within the first few months, we traveled all around Wales. Um,
Beautiful part of Wales
oh,
is I love the Welsh. I mean, I got a soft spot for them, but I absolutely, yeah, incredible. I mean, I don't want too many people to hear about it because I don't want too many people going there because it's a little secret. Because the beaches are just, you know what I mean? They're perfect.
phenomenal. But yeah, in the camper van, we did so much. Wales was a highlight. We did a lot around Kent, kind of Suffolk way, Devon, Dorset, and then we went up to the Lake District. And don't laugh, but I went to the Lake District.
Yeah.
It's kind of everyone knows it rains there. However, I didn't. So I rocked up to the Lake District in my camper van with no coat for myself, no coat for Rupert.
Yeah.
The very first night we got flooded.
No.
Uh,
Were you staying at a camp? You were staying at a campsite, were you?
in a campsite, everything got flooded. And I
Right.
was, oh my gosh, right. Welcome to the Lake District. I was not prepared for this at all. And I was like, do you know what? I can't do this. I can't. I cried so much that night. I mean, another thing, another part of my story is I have a faith, and my
Right.
faith is a thing that keeps me going.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. And just for just for those listening here, we kind of all faiths really. I think that one thing about a faith, whether it's whatever it is that it gives you a sense of something bigger than you. Kind of keeps your ego in check. And I like you. I think we're being guided somewhere. I think that, something's looking down on us. And so were you doing a lot of praying that night?
Oh yes, oh yes. But I'm not a quitter, so I kept going, and I
Yeah.
did a whole week in the Lake District, which was absolutely amazing. We climbed up Cat Bells, had an
Wow.
incredible time, and then I was like, I came back home and thought, right, I need to upgrade the camper van. This is not practical enough for
Yeah.
the trip I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I sold that one, and I bought myself, a guy had done it up for me during lockdown, and it's basically a Vauxhall Vivaro, so like a proper work van, long
Okay.
wheelbase, double bed, kitchen, toilet. It's a stealth van, so it's fully equipped. And last year I took a whole month off work, and we did a massive trip up to Scotland. We did the
Wow.
N100. We did the Peak District, Yorkshire Moors, Lake District again, Cotswolds, Devon. So we have nearly done the whole of the UK, apart from Cornwall, which will be this year.
Amazing. And do you know what I love about your story? And the reason I want to talk about camper van is because how many of those bullies truly could have done that? And they probably, it wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? Look at the tenacity and the strength that you have. I mean, how many people of your age, a single woman and her dog jumps in a camper van, they're not worried, you're not thinking about petrol or breaking down or you know what I mean? I mean that honestly, I think that sometimes people who've experienced bullying, I don't know, it's a fire in your belly at some
Yeah.
point that you're not gonna kind of let that down. So in within all of that, how do you get time to do your things like, for example, like I know you ice skate, don't you? Is that right? How do you
Yes.
get time to? I don't understand it. So you're doing Pilates and you're PT and you got a dog and you're traveling and I mean, how do you tell me about the ice skating?
Well, do you know what? One thing I say to a lot of my clients, my piano students, is if you love
Ah, we
something,
will talk about the piano as well. And another thing you do. Right, okay. All right. We'll come back
um,
to the piano. Let's go for the ice skating.
yeah, one thing I say to people is if you truly love something, it's not a chore, it's not hard work, and you won't make
Right.
any excuses for it, and you will find time for it. And that is, a lot of things I do, I try, it's taken years to get here, but I try and align it with my values to make sure that I love what I'm doing. So my work, like I don't normally work on a Sunday, but I went for a run this morning with a run club, and then I did some personal training. Normally Sunday would be kind of my down day,
Your chill day, yeah.
but it's not work for me. Um,
It's
so
funny. I always think that they talk about Sunday being a day of rest and a day of peace and what have you. And I think there's some real wisdom in that because Saturdays, as always, you've got the shopping to do and this to do. And I think it's really important that once in a while, paraphrase, we should smell the roses, stop and smell the roses, and stuff like that. So with the ice skating, is how does your knee hold up on that? How's it feel?
Interesting, actually. So I think a mixture of the Pilates and physio over the last few years have been really beneficial for my knees,
Yeah,
and then also weight training as well.
yeah, and of course you visited the chiropractor. I mean,
Yes, yeah, of course, of course.
AKA me.
Yeah, yeah, no, John Luke is brilliant. I highly recommend it. I go every month and he sorts me out. That actually. So I had some back pain beginning of last year, and that
Yeah,
was due to my ice skating because I wasn't engaging my right glute, my right
right. Okay.
bottom. And actually, it was since seeing you and having that
Yeah,
acupuncture
yeah.
that my right bottom cheek, my lower back has not played up.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? That I think I don't know how many needles I use, but very small few needles, and it transforms it. And this whole journey. I mean, I've got many heroes in life. I mean, Rangan Chatterjee, Diary of a CEO. If you've ever come across that podcast, I'd also recommend that. Amazing people. They're really inspirational. And one of my Gabor Mate. Do you know Gabor Mate? And Jordan Peterson. These are all incredible people that we've come coming through now and are really asking us to challenge these kind of conceptions that we had, these stereotypes, that we're coming through. So with the ice skating, is that's just something that it's you find peace in doing?
Yeah, yeah. So the ice skating actually started. So it's something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to have figure skating lessons. I've always wanted to learn properly.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it was beginning of last year, and I tend to find this with a lot of people. It takes something drastic for something to happen in our lives to give us a kick up the butt for us
Isn't
to
that the right?
realize
I agree.
what we want or what perhaps we don't want in life. Unfortunately, it was my piano teacher, a family friend, that passed away beginning of last year.
Right.
And that was the kick up the butt for me to go, actually, Jazz, life is too short. You've always wanted to have figure skating lessons. Why don't you go for it? The thing is,
do you get people? It's interesting this. I've had this. Maybe I have an accent which is kind of a combination accent, and people think that I'm sort of some born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Do you ever get that? People sometimes say, without knowing my story, they will say, "Oh, you're so lucky," or "You don't understand." And I mean, I know your story because I've seen you growing up, and I've seen what you've had to overcome. Do you get that at all? If you don't tell somebody your story, do you ever get where they think that you just have some privileged lifestyle?
I think so. Yes, I think because I've got so many hobbies and I have achieved quite a lot. I think people just assume that I've either had it paid for me or it's just somehow landed in my lap. And I think the biggest thing is when I tell people that I have been overweight, I've had an eating disorder, people are their jaw drops because they see what I'm like now. And I say to them, it's all hard work. I'm a big believer in hard work. So if I've got clients or piano students who aren't putting the work in, I don't mind what level they're at, whether they're beginner or advanced. It's all about the attitude for me. If someone's got a good attitude towards life, I will work with them. I will be friends with them.
Yeah, my mother used to have this thing where she used to say, "God only gives you what he thinks you can kind of handle." Do you know what I mean? And did used to say that if you think the burden's too much, ask for a little bit to be taken off. But I do find sometimes that I like to think of Earth as a kind of a university, and in a university you can't just put your hand up and get all the answers from the professor. You've got to push through, and sometimes I have found that the people that struggle the most in life can sometimes be quite enlightened or different because they're having to work outside of this box of what we've got to think into there. So the piano playing, was that something that goes back to when you were very young? Does it go back to sort of church, or where does that come from?
Well, my family, they've all been musical. And I think I was always kind of tinkering on the piano from, of course, maybe like 1 year old.
Wow.
Just tinkering away. And then I actually started learning the violin when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
That was something that was offered to me in school. And I mean, that's another factor. I think when you're in year 3 and you play the violin's not really seen as a cool instrument.
No, it's not your rock guitar, right? Yeah.
But yeah, violin it was. And then I was actually playing in a violin concert in an orchestra at school when I was about 9, 10 years old. And this piano teacher came up to me and she says, "I want to teach you piano." She says, "I've got a 2-year waiting list." She says, "I want to jump you up my waiting list."
Wow. Just out of the blue?
Yeah. And my mum was like, "Okay, well, perhaps violin might have to give."
Yep.
Finances and stuff.
Yep.
And then within that first year, I did 3 piano exams. I then spent 6 years with this teacher, and I got all the way up to grade 8 piano with her, and she really pushed me.
That sounds like she's quite an inspirational person. She saw something in you that I mean, the other thing too, of course, is my wife plays the violin, and the only thing I'd say about the violin is as it does your neck in.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Whereas the piano, at least the piano kind of upright. Wow. So she saw something. Was it a she that we're talking about? Yeah, she saw something in you that was I don't know, just there. And if you found solace or comfort at times in music? Do you escape into it when you've gone through those tough times?
Definitely. Do you know what? I kind of emotions are like the weather, like they come and go. You're going to
Yeah,
have highs and lows, but music has been like my one constant in
yeah.
life throughout it all. And I know that if I'm feeling sad, if I'm angry, if I'm emotional, even if I'm happy, I play music, and it's so good for the soul.
No,
Um,
no, it is. I mean,
yeah.
you know how you can smell a certain smell and it takes you back straight away. But there's certain songs that do that for me too, and I mean, so many. And I think that music, especially when you're growing up, it can express or help a young person to really express, kind of what they're feeling. And I think that so many people have gone through tough times with music, it's in their life, sorry, and they use music and they write those lyrics, and you can identify with them as there. So so you've got your dog, you've got Rupert, and you're traveling around in your camper van.
Yeah.
So what was the journey from there after that? So you went up to the Lake District. Where did you go after that?
So yes, so last year we did Scotland. So that was the really big one.
Right.
Um, you actually said about, things going wrong, like the van breaking down. So the van did break down. It broke down 3 times in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And one thing I've learned is, I think other people can relate to this,
Yeah.
is it's accepting strangers' kindness. Sometimes we're so independent, we don't want to rely on other people. We don't want to accept, helping hand or anything. I'm very much like that. I'm independent. I'm a single solo woman. I can do it. But it's learning to accept people's kindness. So when my van did break down, I had people say, look, do you want to stay with us for the night? I can do your washing, you can have a bath if you want. I can cook dinner for you. And I
Wow.
was like, yes,
Where
please.
was this? Was this up in the Lake District
So the van broke down.
or Scotland?
So the van broke down Peak District, and
Yeah.
then Yorkshire Moors, and then ultimately Scotland.
Okay. I mean,
Um,
I find for me personally, I find the whole Celtic thing, the Scots, the Irish, just so welcoming.
oh
Really, I
yes.
remember once going to there's a friend of mine, Ian. He used to lived up in a little place called Kilmarnock, and I'd never been to Scotland, and I'd heard all these things about the Scots, all these rubbish things that people put about. I tell you what, I never put my hand in my pocket once. Not literally. I mean, the problem was I was trying to keep up with all these whiskies in the bar, so things like that. But the Irish and the Scots, the Welsh, I have a real soft spot for them because they are very proud, but they're very caring, actually, and compassionate people.
Yes.
And I'm really pleased to know that there's sort of some, kind people around that took you under their wing.
Oh yes, yes. And I mean, oh boy, they can talk as well.
Oh yeah.
They are so kind, but they can talk and talk and talk. Uh, so yes, and it's just people are. I find I don't really watch the news because I find it's too negative, and I like
I
to
agree. I
live
agree.
in my own bubble and be as positive as possible. But you know what? There are so many amazing people out there. Everyone has a
Yeah,
story.
me too.
Everyone, these strangers have been so kind to me, so generous.
Yeah.
It's really opened up my eyes. It's opened up my heart as well.
I think
Uh,
so. I mean, I one of the things I wanted to do with this podcast is I wanted to create a shift a little bit where I'm just interviewing normal people.
mm,
And because often we talk about having celebrities on and things like that, and I come from a family where I've got a famous cousin, etc. And so I could maybe reach out to people like that, but the whole point about Zen Footsteps was to walk that journey. That's why the footsteps, and allow people that ability to express on a platform some of the positivity, because I find that with the news especially, the story comes on, it loses its traction or its fear or its shock value, and then it's on to the next shock value. And I was listening to this. I only listen when I go into work in the mornings. I put the radio on because it's like a 2-minute catch up on the news. But every story I've noticed is a division. It's them and us, men against women, or this person against this person, or political party. There was even a story about a whale and they're talking it had swum something like 8,000 miles, and maybe it was for mating, or maybe it was because of hunting, to get krill and all that. I thought, oh, that's really lovely. And then they spun it right at the end by going, maybe it's because of climate change, so the fear factor is really strong. So it's good to know. I mean, we don't have a TV, for example, and people think, what? You don't have a TV? They look at us as if we've got, like, horns or something, It doesn't mean we can't do things like watch, TV. Sorry, not TV, but go on the laptops and stuff like that. The difference is you choose to put in your body good food, and I think you should choose to put into your brain and your mind good thoughts and good deeds as well. Within that, how have you turned around the nutrition? Because obviously, as an instructor and working doing Pilates, and how have you turned that around? How have you turned the nutrition side around?
Mm. Do you know what? I think it's multiple kind of factors. I think one of them is the gym community that I get myself involved with. So, for example, like I've recently joined like a boot camp, which has been great because there's a real sense of community, and like we go for socials afterwards. But I think journaling has been a massive thing that has really, really helped me.
You mean keeping a journal and just
just
okay.
keeping a journal, kind of a gratitude journal, especially, and thinking like as positive as I can and being just thankful for things.
Yeah.
And I think rather than thinking, I think it's being thankful for the food and having that positive spin on it, thinking I want to nourish my body, I want to fuel it.
Yeah.
Really, really helps. But do you know what the biggest thing actually was? I went to Uganda recently, and since coming back from Uganda, my whole my diet, my outlook on life is just completely changed. I'm so thankful for everything I have, and I just want to nourish my body as much as possible. So I think it has been a combination of community, so people you surround yourself with. So if you are struggling with nutrition, talk to people, try and open up. I think that's a good start. Writing things down as well can be really helpful.
Because a lot of things we have are quite first world problems, aren't they? I mean, I remember talking to somebody, and they were sort of kicking off about why people in Africa had so many kids, if they were so poor and everything. And I said to them, look, you got to understand, if you have 10 children in somewhere like, in some of these places, because I've spent time in Africa too, going out there and, treating people and stuff like that. And we went with a whole bunch of people, nurses, doctors. And I said, of those 10 children you'll have, you'd be lucky sometimes if 2 survive. And we don't have pensions, and we don't have those things. And if you have a boy, that boy's going to look after you. But if you have a girl, the girl often goes off to be with another tribe or another family. And I think a lot of when you go to Africa, I don't know if you found this, but I felt really alive because, you're walking along in the middle of the night, and what was a stick is a snake, or sharks in the water, everything's trying to eat you, you feel very, very alive. And I think that is exactly how I felt. I came back feeling, wow, I am so grateful. I really am grateful. I mean, I can just, what I go and spend on a cup of coffee, there's a child in Africa I sponsor, and what I would make in probably half an hour to an hour work-wise will keep that child in a uniform and educate that child. It's unbelievable. It's really incredible. That must have been very difficult for you. Did you, because you have no ties here, was there a pull to sort of think, wow, maybe I should pack it all in and go to Africa?
Well, do you know what? I mean, I haven't actually told anyone yet, but
okay. It's a first here. Zen Footsteps podcast.
Uganda was just such an incredible experience. I was there just 2 weeks. I wish it was longer. But I was there originally for a water project. So it was basically about learning about the water, about the villages, a bit of building. But because I've got quite a bit to offer, I wanted to just throw myself into it. Yeah. And I'm a big believer of what you put into something, you're going to get out of it, basically. And I gained so much. I learned a lot about myself. I was about, able to help other people.
Yeah.
So over there, I did fitness, I did music, I taught some English.
What music did you do there? Did they have
Sorry,
a piano there or something?
did they have a piano?
Yeah.
You know what? I took my piano with me.
Of course you did. Why not?
Well, so technically, so it lives in, I've got my piano, which is here, which I piano teach,
Right.
but I've actually got a fold-up keyboard, which lives in
Oh
the camper
wow.
van. So when I go
Oh.
traveling around, I take
Yeah.
the camper van, and that's another thing. Music is universal, it's a
Of course it
universal
is.
language. It brings people together. So I'll be sat at a campsite, literally playing piano, and then we start jamming and all sorts.
Yeah.
But no, I took my keyboard with me to Uganda.
Wow.
Um, it was absolutely incredible. But yes, I've contacted them recently,
Yeah.
literally, I think it was this week, to potentially talk about me going over there again this year for a bit longer.
Fantastic. Is that a project out there?
So
Is
it's a
it
charity called International Needs.
okay?
And I think they link up with, I think it's 33 other countries that they link up with. And it just so happened that went to Uganda. And the way it's run over there is just fantastic. So I just want to get involved really.
I think that there's I have my youngest daughter is in Austria. She's at university. In Austria, what they have is they have this vocational thing they have to do. Either have to spend time in the army, in a hospital, fire brigade, go and work somewhere basically to give back before they start their working life. And I think as a result of that, I don't think my daughter has to pay for a university. But I think that people going to places like Uganda, I went to the Gambia. I think it's a really good thing to do. It really, really sort of grounds you. And I mean, to come full circle and get the wagons going around, as they say, what I find really inspirational about your story is that I'm not suggesting that, if the bully hadn't happened and that wouldn't have been a good thing. It is a good thing. But I actually question how many of those people that bullied you, what lives are they living, and actually would they have the fortitude to do what you're doing now? And one of the things I find that if you're bullied, I've always said this to my kids when they're growing up, is two things I want from my children. Don't be bullied and don't be a bully.
Mhm.
That's very important for me. Really, really important. Because they experience some of their own, own challenges, should I say. But I would say that I think that I would love to know what those bullies are actually doing, because I think I would imagine if confronted with them now, well, you wouldn't take it, first of all. You know what I mean? There's something that's strong within you from that experience. I found that same for me. Now I've almost, what do they say, like a dog with a bone. Do you know what I mean? If I see somebody being bullied, I just step in, Sometimes I shouldn't. My wife has told me when I broke up this fight at a railway station, probably wasn't a good idea. It was fine. It went well. I just happened to be happy and lucky or whatever. But I do think that Africa is something that really teaches us, so much really. So what's the plan? The plan is to go back then, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 28. I've got my own lovely home with Rupert. I've got a business, so things are going really, really well. But ultimately, I don't really have any kind of ties. The
Yeah.
world's my oyster.
Well,
Um,
that
and
might be changing very soon once this goes out. There's going to
uh,
be some young guy sitting there looking at you going, hold on a second. So she's single. She's got her own place. She's got no ties. She's got her own business. You know what I mean?
oh
You've just
yeah,
got to make sure that when they rock up that it's
yeah. Well, do you know what? I mean, I've been single the last two and a half years.
yeah,
And I think the first 2 years really have been a real healing journey for
yeah,
myself, where I've kind of chosen to be single, where I just really wanted to kind of learn to love myself, fill up my own cup,
important.
and then I can now pour out to other people. But yeah, I just have to go with the flow. If I'm called to go to Uganda and help out there,
Yeah.
amazing. If I'm not, then that's okay. But I just feel I would hate to my idea is I would love to be a cool 70-year-old doing Pilates,
Yeah.
ice skating, have all my scrapbooks and tell my grandchildren of
Wearing
all,
purple.
yeah, like, of all the cool places I have been to and the
Yeah.
things I've achieved. That for me is success in life.
Yeah,
That's
and I truly, truly believe it's going to happen for you. I can't see it not, because you have this real strength of manifesting the things that you need to manifest. I mean, the true strength of Jordan Peterson talks about this. He says, be careful of somebody who can be on their own, because they've learnt through tough times to be strong and to love themselves. They're someone really to watch out for, because a lot of people get into relationships because they can't be alone,
yeah.
because being alone is quite a challenge. It's I often, I remember I've talked to my kids about this, which is that you can be on the riverbank, or you can be like that little fish that jumps into the stream. Now that stream is going to knock you to pieces as it goes towards the sea, and you're going to take some knocks. But when you get out into that vast sea, it's going to be this beautiful liberation in your life. And I think that's exactly kind of, I think that, I'm hoping that people listening to this who have been bullied, have gone through eating disorders, can see how they can really change your life. Because at the end of the day, we can always say, yeah, but because I was bullied, I didn't do that. I think
Yeah.
you almost have to go, no, I'm not going to let that be my story. We all have a story, and we can all tell that story. So how when you're working with clients, do you get people, young people that you maybe think that they're going through the same? Have you ever come across that?
You know what? Interesting you say that. So literally this week I've been doing some PT consultations,
Yeah.
and they're only about 20 minutes, 30 minutes long. So there's not a great time to spend with that person. But I tend to just kind of ask, general questions. How's nutrition? How's the stress levels? Um, and I've been working with some younger girls, probably ranging from 16 to maybe kind of 25. And it's lovely, but it's also sad. They feel safe enough to open up with me. They feel that they can tell me they've had or are going through an eating disorder. And the first thing I say is, I hear you, I understand you, and I
Yeah.
tell them my story.
I think that is so important. It is to share your story. Sharing your story with someone is authentic. It's not from a book. I'll get patients coming to see me, and they might be in pain, say with a lower back, and they think for some reason I've never had back pain, but I actually tore a disc. And when I share that with them and I talk about the pain of that, they suddenly realize, wow, this person really understands. Because to say you got back pain is like saying you got a headache when you got a migraine. It's completely different. But you have an authenticity, if that's the word, to be able to say these things to people, and they'll resonate with it. They'll know. And sometimes that, in a kind of a really strange way, I find that when we've had experiences in life, sometimes that's almost like setting us up to be that person, can help. Does that make sense in a weird? I mean, I'm never. I would never look back at my former self and want to change anything, because my former self was doing those things because I thought it was right at the time.
Yeah.
And if I like who I am today, then my former self made me who I am, in
Mhm.
the sense that it's fascinating, because your story has led you to this journey of where you are right now, and what you've overcome is truly incredible. I still think the idea of you getting a camper van, is this 28-year-old jumping in a camper van and just going off, is courageous. I don't know many young guys that would do that, let alone young girls that would do that. So okay, so if people want to contact you, and get hold of you, maybe there's some people out there that experience bullying, maybe they want to talk to you, or never know, what your DMs might be full. How do people, what's the best way to get hold of you?
So I'm on Instagram and TikTok. So that if you just type in Jazz, Jazz, and Straz, Stras, so
Okay.
Jazz Straz, and then I will come up. A lot of that is well, it's me. I try and be as authentic as possible
Yeah.
online, and it's a bit of a mixture of Pilates, PT.
Yeah.
It's my camper van life. I've got some Uganda on there.
Wow. And can, I mean, we've talked about this, and I said I'd talk on this podcast about it, but I think that this platform, for example, people could do a Zoom with you, whatever. Are you happy to work one-to-one on over Zoom with people, with clients, if they want to do that?
Yeah, definitely. Whether it be Zoom, whether it be FaceTime, WhatsApp, and anything like that, whether it be online.
Yeah.
So online, I can do I do piano lessons online. I've been
Wow.
teaching 10 years now,
Okay.
and since COVID, a lot of it has been online, which has been great.
Okay. But just not on a Sunday, because we all need to stop.
Yes. Yeah, that can be piano, that can be PT, Pilates, or even if anyone wanted to reach out just to
Yeah.
talk about anything in life, I'm so down for having some more pen pals, or even finding
Yeah. That's really great. So one of the things we're going to do on every podcast I do is we're going to finish off, because I mean that's like an hour's going so quick. It's incredible how fast it actually goes. So I'm going to ask all of my guests to finish off with a favorite quote, and maybe tell me why. What quote would you come up with, and tell me why?
Do you know what? This quote I have been living by probably for the last year or so, and I don't want to use the word trouble. It's got me in some trouble,
Okay.
but also it's been a massive blessing. I'm very much a go-getter, and I want to encourage people to don't think small, think big. The
Yeah.
world is Easter. Dream it, visualize it, picture it, go for it. And it's really simple. Not many people have heard of it, I don't think. But it's basically live your life and don't ask. I've got to think about it now.
Don't worry, I'm like that. I have many moments like that.
So think that you would much rather ask for forgiveness
Yeah.
than permission.
Yeah. I think that's a really powerful quote, because as soon as you say that, I think permission is almost like disempowering yourself.
Yeah.
You're having to ask someone to be yourself. So,
Yeah.
hey, listen, thank you for being my first guest. It's been really good, and I really hope that people do reach out to you. Your story is truly inspirational. I personally am very proud of you. I've seen what you've done with your life, and I'm looking forward to the next adventure and what's going to happen. So, but thank you very, very much for being here, and we're going to get this out there. And please do reach out to Jazz at the details she's gone. Take care and look after yourself, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.